Alright, hey guys, welcome to part 17 of my ActionScript 3 platformer tutorial. Today I'm going to talk about, first off, fixing the climbing issue from before, and then we're going to add pushable blocks. So, quick recap on where we were from before. We have the switch, and we can go in there. Well, we actually can't go in there because of the glitch, but the block goes away. But we can't climb anything other than this moving block. And the reason that's happening is because the thing that we changed with wall jumping and all of that so that we could actually not go into the wall all the time messed up the code, so now climbing doesn't work because we're not actually going into the wall, and you could only register climbing when you were actually in the wall. So in order to fix that, we need to add some lines into the player class at the bottom here. We're going to say if clinging equals 1 and d down, and this.y is equal to floor minus this.height divided by 2. And what this means is if you are pushing to the right and the wall is pushing back and you're on the ground, and what you want it to do then is you want it to add 7 to your x. So you're actually going to go into the wall, which is what we had before, and it's not able to happen because of the other code, so we're going to try and reinstate it here. And then you do that the other way for a down. So we have that, and then in the block, we're actually going to take all this stuff up here and we're going to put it back to how it was originally before we tried to add any of this climbing stuff, where it's all just in one little concise line. It doesn't do anything else, it just puts you where you're supposed to be for the walls. And then down here at the bottom, we're going to actually add some other stuff. We're going to say, if you're clinging either way, -1 or 1, and the y is less than the top of the block, or the y minus the top of the block is less than the height divided by 2 of the object, which basically is just saying, making sure that you're on the top half of this block so that when you're climbing, it's not going to be a sudden jump. You're actually going to be fluent in your motion. So that's good there. And then lastly, we just need to add a little thing in our main right here. And I don't remember if before I did these changes, the character things need to be above the block things. I know there was a point where we were switching those around, but character has to be higher than block in the code. So we're just going to add another little thing right here. If char.climb timer is not equal to -1, char.cling equals 0. So with that, we can run this again, and now we can still climb this, but we go down here, hit the switch, and we can climb up into here now, rather than having to go over it. And we can climb this, we can climb everything just like we were able to before. Everything works just fine again, and the climbing issue is resolved. Now we're going to move on to doing pushable blocks, and in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and make another class. I'm just going to call it push block, and it's going to have a base class of movie clip. This is actually going to be one of the last new things as far as objects that I'm going to make. After this, we're going to start going more into taking what we already have and making it more complex and more playable. So first off, we need to pull the graphics from our regular block class, because this is going to look just like a regular block, except we're going to have a different color. I'm going to make this a nice light gray, dark gray, somewhere in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and add a pushable block in our map. And I'm going to use 9s to be pushable blocks. I'm going to change around the map a little bit. I'm going to get rid of that enemy, at least for now. And we're going to make this a 9. Have a 1 there. And then another thing I'm going to do, just so that it's easier to get up, I'm going to make the span of the switch, when you land on the switch, I'm not only going to make this one go away, I'm going to make this one go away too, because that gives you more space. And also it shows you guys you can have however many blocks you want disappear when you hit a switch. So we've got that on our map now. And up here at the top, we're going to need to make the push blocks array. And then down in our like load map part, we're going to need to have something to handle them as well. So let's go ahead and make this a queue. Pretty sure queue isn't taken yet. Push blocks. Push blocks. Push blocks. And then queue. 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 And lastly, make that a 9. Now, one thing we're going to have to do, just because the way that the push blocks work, you can have them land wherever when you're done. And we don't want that to be the case because we do so much based off of X and Y positioning with tile-based. So we need to actually round our characters, or not characters, our push blocks, X and Y coordinates to the nearest 50. And we don't need to do it here because this is the one that loads it from the map, but on the one that saves it into the map, we need to do that. Or actually, no, this is the loader. This isn't the saver. So, oh, I don't even know what I'm talking about. This is the saver. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So, in here, we're going to take our Y. We're still going to do the minus 25 like it is. And then it's the divided by 50. That's all going to stay the same, except this right here, we're going to take this and round it to the nearest 50. Or really to the nearest 25. Math.round pushblocks.y times 25, or no, we should do 50 times 50. No. Divided by 50. Times 50. That thing minus 25. Alright. Yeah, that's what I meant to do. I always get a little confused when I'm trying to do these things. Usually I get them through trial and error, and it's hard to get it right the first time when I'm trying to make a tutorial. Anyway, we need to take this and then put it down here for our styles array as well. We can just keep it the same. We need to have a little line here that empties it out along with the rest of the arrays. And then we're kind of going to treat our push blocks like we treat our cloud blocks, because they're pretty similar actually when you think about it. It's just another kind of block that we're actually not just a regular block, but it does the same general thing, just with a little bit of difference. You can just go ahead, copy and paste what you have there for the cloud, change the name to push block and everything. Make sure it goes to the push blocks array instead of the clouds array. And that's it for having them in the map. Now we just need to make them do things. So we're going to go ahead into our class and pull the check obj function from the block class and just throw it right in there. Except we're going to get rid of the thing about switches at the top. And we're going to empty out this if statement at the bottom. We're just going to have this stuff with collision detection for now. And we don't need some of these variables down here. Alright, real quick. We're also going to need the gravity floor and on block off of player, because this block is going to actually move like the player or an enemy would. And because it's going to move, we also need type. Check it even just against itself. String equals push block. And in this code we use width and high instead because of switches. So rather than changing all of those back to width and height, let's just make those width and height variables in here as well, just 50 and 50. So we've got that settled in, and then we also want to just take the gravity handling things off of the player and put them in our push block, because the push block isn't going to move on its own accord. It's just going to have gravity. So if there's nothing underneath it, it'll fall, but it's not going to actually move left or right if you do anything unless you're actually grabbing and pushing it. So we can go ahead and run this. And there's our push block. Doesn't really do anything yet because we don't even have it set up to do anything with our collision detection yet, because we haven't done the for loops. So in order to do that, we're going to go down here, and like I said before, we're going to do this a lot like the clouds one. So I'm just going to pull the clouds one and put this push block one right under it. Push blocks.length. Again, I'm going to make it Q, not taken.
No flick here for you.
Push blocks Q, and then we're actually going to make this, instead of blocks.length, we're going to make this plus clouds.length, because we need that in order to make it so that there's no index conflicts between the cloud blocks and the push blocks. Otherwise, they would both have the same thing, and if we didn't have either plus blocks.length or plus clouds.length, we've had conflicts with actual blocks, and we don't want that either. So looks like that's all set. And that's just a basic thing, but we're also going to need to run this same function, checking it in our block thing. So I'll have the same for loop, and instead we're going to have just regular blocks checking it. Check obj I, and instead in here, push blocks Q. So with that, we can now go ahead and we can stand on it. The enemies still don't have any collision detection with it, but we do, so we can go ahead and in our for loop for the clouds, go back down. Where'd it go? Da-da-da. Here it is. And we can just pull this same enemies one out of here. We're gonna have all kinds of duplicated variable definition warnings, but that's okay. Like I said, one time I'm gonna fix all of those at once. And then that's push blocks instead of regular blocks. And now we run ahead this again, and now, oh, that was undefined and has no properties. Ah, push blocks Q, not push blocks I. Yep, now the enemy hits the push block as well. So I got this error one, get rid of that. Last thing we need to do is actually add the pushing and pulling the way that we're going to do it. So we're going to add another variable on the player in order to do this. And it's going to be called grabbing. It's going to be an int, make it 0. And in here we're going to have the check obj on push block take in one more variable. I'm going to have S be the grab button because there's not going to be much overlap between ladders and pushing things. So we're going to say S down is going to be another variable in here, and this is now when we're going to use this. It's going to be all this stuff that we have up here, and S down, and obj.grabbing is equal to 0. Pretty sure we don't actually need these brackets. We'll just say obj.grabbing equals place, and then we'll have a second if statement, which will just be obj.grabbing is equal to place, and s down is false, obj.grabbing equals 0. Simple as that for this part. And then go ahead in here. Oh wait, we also need to check on this one, make sure that it's a player. Last time I tried this, it ran an error when I did that. Alright. So that's it for that part. And then we need to go, of course, in here, make sure that we pass it s down in addition to what we already have. And the final part that's going to actually make these work is going to be handled in with the character's movement. So if we go up to where we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to put this in brackets because it's going to be multiple lines. We're going to say if char.grabbing equals 0, and just do what we were doing here anyway. And then an else char.x minus equals 2, and then also this one's a bit tougher, push blocks char.grabbing minus blocks.length minus clouds.length. So basically you're just taking the things that we added to it in order to give it its own unique index and taking them away just to give you the index of it within its own array so that it doesn't have to be unique. Dot x minus equals 2. And we can just copy this whole chunk, paste it down here, and just change all those minuses to pluses. And now yeah, this check has to be the first thing, otherwise it's still going to throw that error. Anyway, we try that again. And now, hit S while we're right here, and we can move the block. Now we're going to need to, in the future, we'll handle something so that that enemy doesn't just get trapped back there, because if it's trapped back there, we can't kill it and we can't move on. Actually, no, that's not the worst thing, because it's still there, it's just not moving. So now, what we really want these push blocks for is so that we can put them on switches. So in order to do that, we need to go back into the block class, and it's really only a very simple thing. We're going to go in here and say if the type is player, or type equals push block. And that would do it, but we have to remember that when we hit a switch, 2 blocks leave the array, and when blocks leave the array, that messes up the index of our push block, so we have to go ahead and go ahead with this part where we have the where'd it go? Yeah, this one. We need to add if char.grabbing is equal to 0. It's not equal to 0. Obj dot, no, not obj, char dot grabbing minus minus, so that when a block goes away, you don't see it anymore. So now we hit the switch with our pushable block, we can go in there. Only thing now is making it so that this this switch, when we take the block off or we take ourselves off, it comes back and the blocks come back where they're supposed to be. And I'm going to cover that in the next tutorial, in addition to the next topic, which is going to be enemies attacking. So I'll see you guys next time.